So we're going to start working on the Riley RMB, see if we can make it run any better. All right, so I got this carburetors off of it. We got them in the shop, and I'll start cleaning those up. And I actually started looking at the wiring here, was going to start taking some of this stuff out. And I got to taking a little closer look at it, and I realized somebody's actually spent a lot of time kind of stringing and branching this wiring like they were trying to actually build a harness properly. And they're all numbered. All this stuff has numbers on them that appears, I haven't fully checked it out yet, but it appears to match up to the numbers within the wiring diagram in the factory manual here. So I decided to just tidy it up and zip tie them and put them off to the side, because that might come in handy later. Now, next, I'm going to have to look at the solenoid here and see, this one doesn't work. This is just basic old Ford type solenoid. I'm pretty sure that's not original to this car, but there is another one of those in the box of the stuff that came with it. So we'll test that one out, and if it works, I'll replace it, and then we can maybe get it to, and something for a switch in there and get it to turn on by the switch. And of course, I'll do something different. This pump probably doesn't work. I'll test it, make sure, but if it doesn't work, there was another one that was laying down here, the old facet type. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't, then we'll come up with something else. Now we'll have to look at those plug wires, because obviously, you know, the popping back through the carbs wouldn't just be carburetors. It's got to be something with timing, or, you know, potentially a bad cam, something along those lines. But we'll start with timing and ignition, and I'll probably take the valve covers off, check out all the valve trains, see what it all looks like, make sure everything's adjusted right, pull the plugs, clean those up or replace them, and try to come up with some wires for it. Interesting thing about this is the distributor looks like it's just the same old, you know, Lucas stuff that we see on, you know, even like a TD. Looks exactly like that distributor, but in this case, it's turning clockwise. So while it's the same firing order as any other four-cylinder, since it's rotating the other direction, then you're actually 1, 2, 4, 3 rather than 1, 3, 4, 2. So once we got the carbs cleaned and we've gone through check the valves, make sure everything's moving properly, and made sure the ignition system's up to snuff, and we get it to actually run reasonably smooth, then I'll work on trying to get the cooling system together, make sure it actually holds coolant. Right now, it looks like this hose probably isn't gonna hold coolant, and we don't have the temperature sensor in here, so we obviously can't fill it and expect it to stay full. So we got the carbs here, and I've got the one I started cleaning things up. I went through both of them just in the parts washer real quick, took them apart, done some basic cleaning. This is the one that had the stuck float, and it was rusty enough on the shaft here that the float was stuck, and actually it come apart a lot easier than I thought it was going to, but that shaft does have quite a lot of pitting in it, so a lot of water had gotten into that, so there's a lot of trash down inside here. This was plugged, all that stuff, but this one we haven't finished cleaning up. This one here has been cleaned up pretty well. This is about as far as I'm going to take them. I'm not doing a full 100% complete rebuild and refresh. I'm just cleaning them up, new seals, get them working right. Now, whether you're a Riley guy or you're an MG guy, if you are working on a Riley, at least the RMB here, this carburetor is just a basic H4 carburetor. It's basically what this is the exact same carburetor that's on the MGT D Mark II or the MGF, or TF, sorry. Because it has more in common with the T-Series carburetors than it does the MGA. This is an MGA body. They're a little bit shorter. There's some variances in them. But if you don't want to hunt down a specialist supplier for the Riley parts, you can just order a seal and gasket kit for a Mark II, TD Mark II, or a TF, because this is 1.5 inch carbs and those had 1.5 inch. Everything else is pretty much standard fare. Same thing you're going to see on any of the T-Series cars. The same washer set to hold the float ball on as all the other T-Series cars. Now the rest of these parts, as far as seals and gaskets and the seals for here and the gland seals for the jet and all that, they're the same as TD or T-Series and MGA. Floats are the same. These gaskets are the same. The springs are going to be the same. All this pieces, all the jet bearing kit and all that's pretty much all the same stuff. Float bowl lids, gaskets, all the same. Now, in my case here, we had one of these was just rotten off. But I've got one from an MGA. Gonna work just fine. We can throw in there to replace that. Float bowls, I'm not sure if it's quite the same as a T-Series. I don't have any T-Series stuff here to compare it to. Basically the length here, I'm not sure if that's the same or not. Definitely different than the A. The A's are longer and they're twisted. But basically the T-Series, you're going to mount these floats this way, footballs that way, and the Riley are this way, towards the inside. Now, one of the bigger differences between these and the T-Series is the T-Series had a aluminum piston assembly with a weight bonded to it here, where these are just brass and are heavy enough as they are to not need the weights. And of course, the needle will be different because it's a bigger, more powerful engine to be a richer needle. I have no idea what needle is in this thing. I could probably look it up, but those don't want to move. I didn't want to risk damaging them, so I left it alone. So whereas the MGT series has overflow tubes that come off and route the overflow away from the exhaust, since the manifold is right under the carburetors, this is a cross-flow engine, so there's no exhaust there. They just dumped straight out here, no tubes. So that part's a little different, but there's still the gaskets and all that stuff are the same. Now, the rods, choke rods, I don't know if they're the same. I don't have a set of T-Series ones here to double check. I'm going to say they might be a little different, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But if you're just trying to go through and do a seal kit and clean up your carbs, you don't have to source it from a Riley specialist if you can't find one. Or, you can just go to, say, Moss Europe, Rimmer Brothers, or any of the other MG suppliers and just get stuff for, like I said, the TF. Well, since we're having a pretty nice day today, I went ahead and got the air gun out here, or blowgun, and blew out all the spark plug holes, got the spark plugs out, and got the rocker covers off, ran a compression check on it, and it's 115, 125, 120, and 135. Little more variance than I'd like to see, but that's not really that bad considering this thing's sat for quite some time. But at least we're not seeing anything that's really low. I went ahead and cleaned the rocker covers up a little bit. I'm going to have to go find that headset to get the valve cover gaskets out of it because they just fell apart. I might go ahead and do clearances, check the clearances, see how they look. Everything looks like it's moving okay. So, yeah. Well, we got some rain moving in. Let's see if we can beat the rain here. Now what I've done here, we got the carbs all cleaned up, back on there. I've got them set so they're both the same richness. And I found out the spark plugs that were in it were RN11 YC4s, which is not the cross reference of what's supposed to be in there. They're actually supposed to be N5Ys or RN5Ys. So I've got the correct spark plugs in here now. We've got some fuel in the float bowls. Let's see if it runs any better. Ignition on. Oh, it idles now. Winning. So now we can work on getting the cooling system to hold coolant. And I got to make some valve cover gaskets for it. And we can continue on from there.